Hello and welcome to day 42 in the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we are reading Numbers chapters 9 to 12 and we are in the New International Version for this week. Chapter 9.
The Lord spoke to Moses in the desert of Sinai. In the first month of the second year, after they came out of Egypt, he said, "Have the Israelites celebrate the Passover at the appointed time. Celebrate it at the appointed time at twilight on the 14th day of this month, in accordance with all its rules and regulations."
So Moses told the Israelites to celebrate the Passover, and they did so in the desert of Sinai at twilight on the 14th day of the first month. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord commanded Moses.
But some of them could not celebrate the Passover on that day because they were ceremonially unclean on account of a dead body. So they came to Moses and Aaron that same day and said to Moses, "We have become unclean because of a dead body. But why should we be kept from presenting the Lord's offering with the other Israelites at the appointed time?"
Moses answered them, "Wait until I find out what the Lord commands concerning you."
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, when any of you or your descendants are unclean because of a dead body, or are away on a journey, they are still to celebrate the Lord's Passover, but they are to do it on the 14th day of the second month at twilight. They are to eat the lamb together with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They must not leave any of it till morning or break any of its bones. When they celebrate the Passover, they must follow all the regulations. But if anyone who is ceremonially clean and not on a journey fails to celebrate the Passover, they must be cut off from their people for not presenting the Lord's offering at the appointed time. They will bear the consequences of their sin."
A foreigner residing among you is also to celebrate the Lord's Passover in accordance with its rules and regulations. You must have the same regulations for both the foreigner and the native born.
On the day the tabernacle, the tent of the covenant law, was set up, the cloud covered it. From evening till morning, the cloud above the tabernacle looked like fire. That is how it continued to be. The cloud covered it, and at night it looked like fire. Whenever the cloud lifted from above the tent, the Israelites set out. Wherever the cloud settled, the Israelites encamped. At the Lord's command, the Israelites set out, and at his command, they encamped. As long as the cloud stayed over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. When the cloud remained over the tabernacle a long time, the Israelites obeyed the Lord's order and did not set out. Sometimes the cloud was over the tabernacle only a few days. At the Lord's command, they would encamp, and then at his command, they would set out. Sometimes the cloud stayed only from evening till morning, and when it lifted in the morning, they set out. Whether by day or by night, whenever the cloud lifted, they set out. Whether the cloud stayed over the tabernacle for 2 days or a month or a year, the Israelites would remain in camp and not set out. But when it lifted, they would set out. At the Lord's command, they encamped, and at the Lord's command, they set out. They obeyed the Lord's order in accordance with his command through Moses.
Chapter 10. The Lord said to Moses, "Make 2 trumpets of hammered silver, and use them for calling the community together and for having the camp set out. When both are sounded, the whole community is to assemble before you at the entrance to the tent of meeting. If only one is sounded, the leaders, the heads of the clans of Israel, are to assemble before you. When a trumpet blast is sounded, the tribes camping on the east are to set out. At the sound of the second blast, the camps on the south are to set out. The blast will be the signal for setting out. To gather the assembly, blow the trumpets, but not with the signal for setting out."
The sons of Aaron the priest are to blow the trumpets. This is to be a lasting ordinance for you and the generations to come. When you go into battle in your own land against an enemy who is oppressing you, sound a blast on the trumpets. Then you will be remembered by the Lord your God and rescued from your enemies. Also at your times of rejoicing, your appointed festivals and new moon feasts, you are to sound the trumpets over your burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, and they will be a memorial for you before your God. I am the Lord your God.
On the 20th day of the second month of the second year, the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle of the covenant law. Then the Israelites set out from the desert of Sinai and traveled from place to place until the cloud came to rest in the desert of Paran. They set out this first time at the Lord's command through Moses.
The divisions of the camp of Judah went first, under their standard. Nashon son of Aminadab was in command. Nathanael son of Zua was over the division of the tribe of Issachar, and Eliab son of Helon was over the division of the tribe of Zebulun. Then the tabernacle was taken down, and the Gershonites and Merarites who carried it set out.
The divisions of the camp of Reuben went next, under their standard. Elizur son of Shedor was in command. Shelumiel son of Zurishaddai was over the division of the tribe of Simeon, and Eliasaph son of Jeuel was over the division of the tribe of Gad. Then the Kohathites set out, carrying the holy things. The tabernacle was to be set up before they arrived.
The divisions of the camp of Ephraim went next, under their standard. Elishama son of Ammiud was in command. Gamaliel son of Pedazur was over the division of the tribe of Manasseh, and Abidan son of Gideoni was over the division of the tribe of Benjamin.
Finally, as a rear guard for all the units, the division of the camp of Dan set out under their standard. Ahiezer son of Ammishaddai was in command. Pagiel son of Okran was over the division of the tribe of Asher, and Ahira son of Enan was over the division of the tribe of Naphtali. This was the order of march for the Israelite divisions as they set out.
Now Moses said to Obab, son of Ruel the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, "We are setting out for the place about which the Lord said, 'I will give it to you.' Come with us and we will treat you well, for the Lord has promised good things to Israel."
He answered, "No, I will not go. I am going back to my own land and my own people."
But Moses said, "Please do not leave us. You know where we should camp in the wilderness, and you can be our eyes. If you come with us, we will share with you whatever good things the Lord gives us."
So they set out from the mountain of the Lord and traveled for 3 days. The ark of the covenant of the Lord went before them during those 3 days to find them a place to rest. The cloud of the Lord was over them by day when they set out from the camp.
Whenever the ark set out, Moses said, "Rise up, Lord. May your enemies be scattered. May your foes flee before you."
Whenever it came to rest, he said, "Return, Lord, to the countless thousands of Israel."
Chapter 11. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down, so that the place was called Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them.
The rabble with them began to crave other food, and again the Israelites started wailing and said, "If only we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna."
The manna was like coriander seed and looked like raisin. The people went around gathering it and then ground it in a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar. They cooked it in a pot or made it into loaves, and it tasted like something made with olive oil. When the dew settled on the camp at night, the manna also came down.
Moses heard the people of every family wailing at the entrance of their tents. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you, that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms, as a nurse carries an infant, to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, 'Give us meat to eat.' I cannot carry all these people myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you are going to treat me, please go ahead and kill me. If I have found favor in your eyes, do not let me face my own ruin."
The Lord said to Moses, "Bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders and officials among the people. Have them come to the tent of meeting, and they may stand there with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take some of the power of the Spirit that is on you and put it on them. They will share the burden of the people with you, so that you will not have to carry it alone."
Tell the people, "Consecrate yourself in preparation for tomorrow, when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, 'If only we had meat to eat, we were better off in Egypt.' Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord who is among you, and have wailed before him, saying, 'Why did we ever leave Egypt?'"
But Moses said, "Here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say I will give them meat to eat for a whole month? Would they have enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them?"
The Lord answered Moses, "Is the Lord's arm too short? Now you will see whether or not what I say to you will come true for you."
So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord had said. He brought together 70 of their elders and had them stand around the tent. Then the Lord came down in the cloud and spoke with him, and he took some of the power of the Spirit that was on him and put it on the 70 elders. When the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but did not do so again.
However, 2 men whose names were Eldad and Medad had remained in the camp. They were listed among the elders, but did not go out to the tent. Yet the Spirit also rested on them, and they prophesied in the camp. A young man ran and told Moses, "Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp."
Joshua, son of Nun, who had been Moses' aide since youth, spoke up and said, "Moses, my lord, stop them."
But Moses replied, "Are you jealous for my sake? I wish that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put a spirit on them." Then Moses and the elders of Israel returned to the camp.
Now, a wind went out from the Lord and drove quail in from the sea. It scattered them up to 2 cubits, deep all around the camp, as far as a day's walk in any direction. All that day and night and all the next day the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 omers. Then they spread them out all around the camp. But while the meat was still between their teeth and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore the place was named Kibroth Atava, because there they buried the people who had craved other food.
From Kibroth Hatava, the people traveled to Hazeroth and stayed there.
Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses?" they asked. "Hasn't he also spoken through us?" And the Lord heard this. Now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth.
At once the Lord said to Moses, "Aaron and Miriam, come out to the tent of meeting, all 3 of you." So the 3 of them went out. Then the Lord came down in a pillar of cloud. He stood at the entrance to the tent and summoned Aaron and Miriam. When the 2 of them stepped forward, he said, "Listen to my words. When there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, reveal myself to them in visions. I speak to them in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face, clearly and not in riddles. He sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?"
The anger of the Lord burned against them, and he left them.
When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. It became as white as snow. Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had a defiling skin disease. And he said to Moses, "Please, my Lord, I ask you not to hold against us the sin we have so foolishly committed. Do not let her be like a stillborn infant coming from its mother's womb, with all its flesh half eaten away.
So Moses cried out to the Lord, "Please, God, heal her."
The Lord replied to Moses, "If her father spit in her face, would she not have been in disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she can be brought back." So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on till she was brought back.
After that, the people left Azeroth and encamped in the desert of Paran. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Today we covered 4 chapters, chapters 9 through 12. In chapter 9, we see more instructions about the Passover and the cloud settling on the tabernacle as a way to let the Israelites know when to move and when to stop. In chapter 10, we are told about the silver trumpets that also became a signal for the people. And then in the same chapter, we saw how they left Sinai to begin to move towards the promised land. In chapter 11, there was a fire from the Lord in response to the desire of the people for meat and longing for Egypt, as it were. And in chapter 12 was the episode of Miriam and Aaron opposing Moses and the judgment of God that was pronounced especially on Miriam. What stood out to you from what we've read?
In chapter 9, what stood out to me was how that God gave allowance for people who were unclean at the time of the Passover to still celebrate the Lord's Passover once they are clean. And I like how that the same regulation that is for the native born also applies to the foreigners.
Speaking on that first point, I think there's a case to also be made around the issue of the flexibility of rules and regulations in some sense. Like, we cannot be so strict with rules to the point where we lose compassion and the very essence of the spirit behind, as it were, the rules. It's pretty much one of the main things that would eventually lead to the arrest and crucifixion of Jesus. The fact that he kept doing all these miracles on the Sabbath day, and the Sabbath that was meant to be, a day of rest, a day of worship, and things like that, had over the centuries become a burden pretty much. So much so that even basic things of goodness and compassion, to do it on the Sabbath day has become an issue. I just like the fact that Moses said, okay, let me go inquire of the Lord about this. We've not thought about this part of the possibilities. And God came back to say, yeah, of course, they can celebrate. Let them celebrate 1 month later than the others. At least by then, they are clean and everything is okay. So, I love that flexibility. Yeah.
And lastly, I like how that they let the Shekinah glory go with them. So their setting out is at the Lord's command, and their encamping is also at his command. I like that. Yeah. Then chapter 10.
Yeah.
Verse 1 to 6. 7 was not clear to me. Because God is saying at the end, he said, to gather the assembly, blow the trumpets, but not with the signal for setting out. So is the blast different from the blowing?
Yes, I think there's something of the sound that determines what it means. It's just like when we were doing our NYSC camp, and NYSC is this paramilitary experience that every graduate within the Nigerian education system go through. And you would recall that they had all these specific trumpets. There's a unique one for calling us together in the morning to know, okay, it's time to wake up, cheche kuche, and whatever things they say. There's a separate one that will be blown at noon. There's a separate one that will be blown in the evening time. And I think there was also something that had to be a national event, and there was a unique thing that was also blown. So it's in that same sort of sense that they know from the sound of what is being blown what that means, whether it's just to assemble, whether it's time to set out, whether it's time to gather for worship and things like that. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I found it interesting that Moses requested for what would be his brother-in-law
Yes.
to also journey with them, and how initially the person said no. And I was wondering in my mind, God, it is clear that God is the one leading them through the symbolism of the lifting and setting of the cloud over the tabernacle. When the cloud lifts, it's time to go. When the cloud rests on the tabernacle, it's time to settle down. But yet, in spite of that divine leading, it seems, at least going by what Moses said, that there is still a need for someone that knows the terrain to bring, as it were, some sort of local knowledge. And I think in some sense it's a template that we must learn to walk with wisdom and justly so. When we say we are trusting God to lead us, how does he do that? It's not every time that, more often than not, God's revelations and guidance comes in symbols, in pictures, in words. It gives you a Bible verse, or it leads you to speak to someone. More often than not, you still need people to either be the confirmation or fulfillment, as it were, of what God has given you as instructions. So the two work together, basically. No one is an island. We need divine guidance, and we need human leadership, basically, or human know-how to bring those two together for us to make progress rightly and avoid unnecessary traps on the way. Yeah.
And the text does not actually tell us that he agreed. But one of the commentaries I read said his descendants, that's the whole Bab's descendants, were mentioned in Judges 1 verse 16.
Okay.
So it seems as though he eventually went with them and then stayed. So to call out, does that mean that when his father-in-law left in Exodus, he must have brought other people with him who remained?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't hear about him after he had left until now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Chapter 11 is quite a... You read it and you wonder... On the one hand, there's a part of me that feels very judgmental of the Israelites. Like, you guys are just crazy. You've experienced all this. You've seen the wonders of God. You've been let out of slavery. You've started settling into enjoying your freedom while you're on the way to the place the Lord has promised you. And the best you can do is to not just cry, not just even think about meat or cry for meat, but actually wail. Wailing is like, like, and I'm imagining the way he said all of them stood in front of their tent and started wailing. Like, are you crazy? We're tired of this manna. Is this what? And they've been creative with the manna, the way it was described. Some will grind it, some will bake it, some will do this and that with it. So yeah, you still have the variety that you need, but yeah, they want meat. And I think it's the same with us in many regards. When we want one thing, and our minds are so fixated on that one thing that we can't even see what God has saved us from. We can't see what He's trying to save us from by not having given us that thing already. Because of course our Father knows the things that we need before we ask Him, is what Matthew 6:8 says. So yeah, it's just quite an interesting story.
It is. I think the saddest part of the story was how they compared, how they wished they were enslaved because they could eat cucumber, leeks, melon, and garlic.
Of all things.
Yeah, garlic is good. It's only you. You don't like garlic. It's a bit judgmental that we're sitting here saying what they should have done or not. But yeah, it's weird. It's one thing to crave food. No, it's not weird actually. If we look at it in a physical sense, when your body is used to something, it's like a withdrawal symptom, isn't it? You're used to something, but then you're given an alternative. The alternative does not really discard the cravings you would have. But in my view, like an alternative way for them to have wailed is actually to have gone to Moses to say, we need something else. Can you ask God? Like the point of crying is a bit weird in the sense that this is a camp of people with men, women, and children. If they said the children were crying for meat, it would be understandable. But they said every family stood at the tent of the entrance of their tent, and they were wailing. So that means husband, wife, everybody. It is good to say it from a third party view because it didn't happen to us, but I can see how they could have made that into a big deal because we do it in our present day lives as well.
Surely.
One simple thing at work, it colors family life, it colors our intimacy with our husband, colors fellowship, colors every single thing until we finger if God does not do that one thing, you won't change your behavior for the others. Which is what the Israelites they've portrayed here.
Sure.
Just one final point on 11. Moses' response to God felt deep, didn't you see? Like from verse 10 to 15, like his heart was like wrenched. I can imagine how that the wailing of thousands of people has gotten to him, that he just wants to bear his own heart and say, did I give birth to these people? Why are you putting the burden on me? And then this part that God said that he would take some of the spirit from Moses and put it on the 70 elders made me concerned.
Why?
I don't know.
I mean, it's if anything, I'm glad that Moses' response to that, again, on the one hand, this is a picture of what is to come. That it's all the presence and power of God will not be limited to the leaders. It would be to everyone indeed. And that's pretty much what happened. So much so that even the two people that did not appear also still got a share of that spirit. And Moses said, when Joshua was being jealous to hear that those people that did not come are also prophesying, stop them. Moses said, actually, I would that, if possible, all of you should become prophets, which is pretty much what happens now in the new covenant. We all get to enjoy the presence of God resident in our hearts, and we are able to, by the reason of his spirit indwelling us, have access to his wisdom, to his guidance. So it's a picture of things to come in that sense, and delegation as well in this sense.
Yes, my concern is Moses' complaint in 10 to 15 runs through to him doubting how the meat would come, so much that the meat coming is not now for the purpose or the benefit of the Israelites, but for Moses to see that it is true, that it will come to pass.
Okay.
How that the outcome flows through. First, something was taken from Moses, and again it doubted that how the meat would come, as though he would be the one to provide. He mentioned specifically, like, would there be enough flocks or herds to slaughter for them? As though he would be the provider of the meat rather than God. So God had to say to him, is my arm too short? Now I will do it so you will see that it comes true for you. So this is feeding into Moses' doubt of, can God do this? As though it's as though he's losing the fact that God is the provider, is the providence, not him himself.
That points to eventually what would stop Moses from entering the promised land, because again, a similar scenario would arise. He would respond out of, God gave him an instruction, but then he would go and say, you want us, me and Aaron, to bring water from you from this rock, and then he struck the rock in anger, and the Lord said, you did not regard me before the people. So that makes absolute sense. Chapter 12, anything stood out to you?
The only thing is how that it was it was Miriam and Aaron that complained about Moses' wife. It was only Miriam that got punished.
Yeah. That's always a perplexing question to think about. Of course, when verse 1 opens, it begins by saying Miriam and Aaron, as though it was actually Miriam that instigated this, because again, in their way of writing, names, the arrangement of names matter.
Okay.
But be that as it may, I mean, if Aaron were to, for instance, be punished in the same way that Miriam was, it's going to affect the religious order. This is the high priest. How do people that need to be assessed within those 7 days, whether they are clean or unclean, how do they get assessed? The sacrifices that needs to be made, it's going to cause a lot of chaos. But then we know that, of course, amongst other things, God always acts justly and righteously. It's just unfortunate that passages like this in some way feeds negatively into the perception of women, even culturally. And we see this again, especially within the African context. By the time we get to the New Testament in John 8, the story of the woman caught in adultery, that is why nobody is asking, where is the man with which she committed adultery? She was caught in the very act, the Bible says. So obviously there should be 2 people that should be brought for stoning. It was only one that was brought. But yeah, it leaves a lot of questions, but we can trust that God acted justly and righteously. The details of how and why we can only fill in the gaps with what we think, but we never can tell. I think there's also a lesson there generally to just to tread carefully with people that are spiritual leaders, in spite of how much knowledge we think we have acquired, and especially in the dynamic of the younger generation to the older generation. Of course, in this case, Miriam is older than Moses, Aaron is older than Moses, so even culturally, both of them have a voice in some sense, or feel like they do have some biological authority over Moses, which God had to come and instruct them to put them in their place. Touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. Be that as it may, of course, we all should be accountable, and rightly so. Whatever the level of leadership we might get to, will be the balance to it.
It was a bit strange that when they accused Moses, he didn't defend himself.
Yeah.
That's really a lot of restraint. For someone to come to your face and accuse you and you keep quiet, that's a lot of self-control that I'm asking God to have.
Or maybe there was not enough time for Moses to respond when God himself decided to fight on his behalf.
True.
It's interesting that it's in this context that it was said that Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. And then people were always hard, but it was Moses himself that wrote this. So what does that say of his humility? But yeah.
Okay, I've never heard that.
Yeah. If Moses wrote Numbers and wrote this passage or this account and decides to add in parentheses that Moses was a very so convenient, but yeah, we can't. I'll keep my thoughts to myself.
Yes.
But it literally says that as they finished saying this, the Lord heard it, and the Lord at once called the 3 of them. So it's something that needed to be nipped in the bud, is how the narrative sounds.
And they didn't just accuse him, they also inferred that is it more important.
Yeah.
So that means there must have been an internal struggle with Moses getting all the instructions from God, commissioning this, commissioning that, blessing this. What about us? Were we not also? What did they say? Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not spoken through us? That's a bit of a power play.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good. Help us.
Amen. And that's a good place to wrap it up on day 42. We'll turn the page again on day 43, and we'll be changing translations as we forge on in the journey through the book of Numbers. But till then, just remember,
you're not alone
today. God bless you.